for the Velveteen Dream!
At any given point across its tumultuous 6-decade existence, WWE has had well over 100 active wrestlers on its books, but not everybody can amount to the same level of success as Hulk Hogan, Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, John Cena, or Roman Reigns. That said, WWE hasn't stopped trying to find its next top star, with so many WWE superstars of the past having tried and failed to survive at the top of the WWE mountain. These guys fell off the mountain and landed somewhere at the bottom. Join us now as WrestleMania looks at 10 WWE wrestlers who had the biggest fall-offs. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists. Number 10. Bobby Fish. Debuting on the NXT brand in 2017, Fish would align with Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly to officially debut the Undisputed Era. The group was incredibly successful, and even winning Tag Team Championship Gold. The group dominated the Black and Gold brand for several years. However, when the group disbanded, things started to tumble for Fish's career. Even though he made a brief return, he was released from his contract in August 6, 2021. It didn't take long for Bobby Fish to find some new work as he debuted for All Elite Wrestling on October 6, 2021. Whilst the stint only lasted a year, Fish's contract with AEW expired and his contract was not renewed. However, he managed to find work over in Impact Wrestling, but that's where things took a very big turn. Fish would have a short and largely unsuccessful run in Impact Wrestling, and it was all down to one poorly received promo that derailed his momentum. Fish arrived in Impact with a strong reputation from previous promotions, raising expectations that he could become a meaningful addition to the roster. However, things went quickly wrong due to a confusing and ill-advised promo, as during the segment, Fish openly stated that he wasn't officially signed to Impact. While it may have been intended to blur the lines between reality and storyline, it instead created confusion and led to one of the biggest wrestling memes of all time. Fans struggled to take him seriously as a long-term contender, and even the company appeared unsure on how to position him afterward. As a result, his run never gained traction. He participated in few matches, including a title challenge, but he failed to make a lasting impression. Even worse was his run on the indie scene, as he suffered an injury pulling a hamstring which temporarily sidelined him. But the situation was made worse as he revealed that he did not have health insurance, adding financial stress to his physical setback. Alongside this, Fish hinted at ongoing personal problems, including a divorce that became public in 2025, which had contributed to the overall strain on his life. Fish would even start up a YouTube channel, but even that had trouble getting off the ground. His career would be a far cry from his teammates, who have both had greater success in the wrestling business. Number 9. King Kong Bundy. Before there was Yokozuna, there was King Kong Bundy, who was also pushed hard by Vince McMahon based solely on his scale tipping weight. Bundy would officially sign with the WWF just 2 weeks before the maiden voyage of WrestleMania, and even managed to squeeze his way onto the card as he destroyed Special Delivery Jones in a match that apparently lasted 9 seconds, even though it was nowhere near that. From there, he began an upwards trajectory that led him to the prime spot of the following year's Showcase of the Immortals, headlining against defending WWF champion Hulk Hogan. Expectedly, Bundy failed to outlast the Hulkster in their steel cage war, and after that, Vince's interest dissipated after Mania. From headlining WrestleMania 2 to being in a tag match at the next Mania, his career tumbled quicker than a 24/7 title change. Things weren't any more golden when he returned to 1994 either. As a member of Ted DiBiase's $1 million corporation, he looked incredibly out of place in the New Generation era, and even more so when he collided with The Undertaker at WrestleMania 11. Regrettably, King Kong Bundy passed away in March of 2019 on sour terms with WWE, having been part of the infamous 2016 class action lawsuit filed against the company. Though with other plaintiffs having since made amends with WWE, such as 2026 Hall of Fame inductees Demolition, is hoping that Bundy will eventually earn his spot in the hallowed hall. Number 8. Chris Masters. Although his second stint between 2009 and 2011 didn't produce anything remotely remarkable, Chris Masters' first spell in WWE saw him positioned as a main eventer in the making. As the Masterpiece, he debuted the Master Lock Challenge almost immediately, which was head office's way of guaranteeing him weekly television time, while he also shared the ring on pay-per-view with the likes of Shawn Michaels, Kurt Angle, and John Cena. Unfortunately, things quickly fell apart for Masters once Bobby Lashley broke the Master Lock in 2007, and with Vince McMahon as creatively barren that year as he was in 2019, it left Chris benched before his eventual release. Tragically, his exit came just 6 days after he was suspended for a second time after breaking the company's wellness policy. Masters had a well-publicized painkiller addiction that he attended rehab for, but when he returned to television following his first suspension with a noticeably leaner physique, it left him to be the butt of several jokes made by the likes of Triple H and JBL. He was never able to fully recover from their mockery, ruining any chance he had of becoming WWE's latest freak of nature. Number 7. Gable Steveson. Historically, when WWE has found success with an industry-changing wrestler, they try and repeat the process with another talent who has at least one similarity, regardless of the actual differences between them. Hence why it was so egregious when they tried to platform Gable Steveson as the new age Kurt Angle. Both had struck Olympic gold in freestyle wrestling and both had taken their mat skills to the squared circle. But Steveson was miles behind Kurt Angle in terms of adaptability, though it wasn't for a lack of trying. Rather than relocating to Orlando to train at the Performance Center, WWE actually set up a remote facility for Gable to use. He was subsequently called up to the main roster as part of the 2021 draft, and while he displayed fine progress during his one-off manhandling of Chad Gable at WrestleMania 38, he lacked any nuanced ability between the ropes. And he wasn't better in NXT. Booked opposite Baron Corbin at the 2023 Great American Bash, Gable looked helpless as he dealt with heckles and boos from the audience. This would be his only televised match in WWE ahead of his 2024 release, leaving behind him a very puzzling career. Steveson was so burnt by the wrestling game, he actually went into MMA instead, and has admittedly had more success there. Number 6. Sin Cara. Similarly to how WWE looked to find its next Kurt Angle when Gable Steveson arrived in WWE, the February 2011 signing of Mystico was done in part so that they could finally discover the next Rey Mysterio. But they couldn't have been further from the treasure. Debuting on the Raw after WrestleMania 27, the repackaged Sin Cara was destined to fail from night one, as a never-ending mixture of suspensions, injuries, and botches derailed him quite literally the second he stepped into the WWE ring. During his debut entrance, he got caught up on the ropes while performing his daring springboard into the ring. Just 1 week later, he fell from the top rope while attempting a Spanish fly in his first televised match. By the summer, he was suspended for a wellness policy violation. When we say never-ending, we genuinely mean never-ending. He left WWE 3 years after signing, at which point the former Hunico, who played the imposter Sin Cara during the mismanaged 2011 feud, was then handed the reins of the faceless luchador. As for Mystico, he returned to Mexico and refound every ounce of fame he enjoyed before moving to WWE, having failed to become what the company wanted him to be. Number 5. Jimmy Snuka. Jimmy Snuka's career didn't fall off as such, it kind of imploded. Allegations of him having murdered Nancy Argentino, his girlfriend at the time, seriously tainted his legacy. After reopening the case after several decades, he was finally arrested in September 2015 and charged with third-degree murder and involuntary manslaughter, though he deemed he was unfit to stand trial before his passing. Even away from his convoluted real life though, Superfly's time at the top of the WWF was already coming to an end. Career-defining moments like his Superfly splash off the top of the cage in Madison Square Garden and Roddy Piper bashing his head with a coconut were simultaneously era-defining, but they were no match for the surge in popularity being experienced by Hulk Hogan that propelled him up the card to take Snuka's spot, and by July 1985, he was gone. Jimmy Snuka did manage to get a second go at life in the WWF between 1989 to 1993, but this was largely the same experience that most of the wrestlers from his time faced during their second runs. He spent most of his time looking up at the stars, including doing so at WrestleMania 7, as he was the first victim of the Undertaker's streak, but other than that, it wasn't worth the WWF's time. Number 4. Jack Swagger. An NCAA Division I All-American Jack Swagger came to WWE as an accomplished amateur wrestler. So what was Vince McMahon's first port of call? Well, to make him the second coming of Kurt Angle, of course. Swagger wore singlets like Kurt Angle did, made being American his entire personality like Kurt Angle did, though without the same charm and charisma, and even used the ankle lock like Kurt Angle did, but he could never reach the same level that Kurt did. Still, WWE relentlessly shoved him down the throats of its audience, with the All-American American eventually becoming Mr. Money in the Bank and subsequently the World Heavyweight Champion in 2010. Swagger would win the briefcase at WrestleMania 26, but by WrestleMania 27, he was serving as a ringside second to, of all people, Michael Cole, as he faced Jerry Lawler. 1 year later, he was 1/12th of the Team Johnny vs Team Teddy match at WrestleMania 28, and 1 year after that, he challenged Alberto Del Rio for the big gold belt, though like his own title reign, the match made for dire viewing. 2017 marked the end of his time in WWE, by which point he had become a jobber to the jobbers, let alone a jobber to the stars. Number 3. Vladimir Kozlov. One of the most boring wrestlers of all time, Vladimir Kozlov was Vince McMahon's 2008 candidate to receive the yearly Bizarre Push, with his calendar that year starting by squashing SmackDown's pool of undercarders and ending by challenging WWE Champion Triple H at Survivor Series. Kozlov was a walking definition of everything that McMahon looked for in a potential main eventer. He stood at 6'8", weighed over 300 pounds, and hailed from what is now Kiev, Ukraine, though he was billed on television as being from Moscow, Russia. Maybe in a different era, the Moscow Mule would have thrived as a foreign menace across the territories. But in circa 2008 WWE, audiences expected much more than what Vladimir was able to offer. After his main event run, he had a sharp shift in character by the end of 2010, as they saw him become a bumbling clown who started dancing, attending tea parties, and teaming with Santino Marella. And even though the strange Bedfellows alliance brought Kozlov his only taste of WWE gold, it didn't come as much of a surprise when he was released less than a year later. Number 2. Lars Sullivan. The downfall of Lars Sullivan in WWE wasn't caused by a single issue, but rather a combination of personal struggles, controversies, and stale momentum. Sullivan was heavily pushed as a dominant monster in the black and gold brand. However, even before he made his official main roster debut, cracks began to show. He reportedly suffered severe anxiety attacks, including one incident where he walked out before a scheduled appearance. An appearance that would have positioned him with a match with John Cena. This immediately disrupted WWE's long-term plans for him and delayed his push. But then his career became further complicated by controversy. Old posts from bodybuilding forums resurfaced, revealing racist, sexist, and homophobic comments, and this led to backlash from fans and wrestlers, as well as a significant fine from WWE and mandatory sensitive training. While he did apologize for the remarks, the damage to his career lingered and made it exceptionally difficult for audiences to fully accept him. In addition, Sullivan struggled to maintain consistency in the ring due to injuries and time away from television. The stop-and-start pushes meant that he never fully established himself as a top star despite WWE's early investment in him. In 2021, WWE quietly released him, and he also confirmed in the same year that he was done with wrestling for good. And number 1, Mr. Kennedy. Now, even though he held the US Championship, won the Money in the Bank ladder match, and competed in matches opposite John Cena, The Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, and Eddie Guerrero, Mr. Kennedy is still one of the biggest what-ifs in WWE history. Injuries and suspensions wrecked all plans that the company had for him. First, he was booked to drop the Money in the Bank contract to Edge after sustaining an injury that was expected to keep him out of action for several months, though it only sidelined him for a matter of weeks. Later that year, he was a planned choice to be Mr. McMahon's illegitimate child, but after he violated the company's wellness policy, those plans were also shelved, with Hornswoggle taking his place. However, the straw that broke the camel's back on Mr. Kennedy's WWE career was an apparently botched belly-to-back suplex that he delivered to Randy Orton, with Orton's complaints to management leading to Kennedy's release. Speaking to Brian Fritz shortly after the supposed mistake, the future TNA World Champion cleared up the misconceptions. He, Orton, told me to give him a belly-to-back suplex, and I did, and I thought everything was fine. I got to the back and he was holding his neck, saying that I dropped him on his head. He went to the back and lectured me about how I needed to be safe and all this other stuff. He got 3 huge bags of ice, one on his neck, one on his left shoulder, and one on his right shoulder. He got them all saran wrapped up, put his shirt back on, and walked to the locker room, and he chewed me out the whole way there, calmly and quietly, but he told me that you need to be careful, blah blah blah. I felt bad about it because I didn't know. I hadn't seen the tape, so I thought I really dropped him on his head. Then I went home and saw the tape, and I saw that he landed flat. If you slow the videotape down, his neck never comes into contact with the mat. So I'll let you watch the tape and you let me know what you think. After years of resentment with WWE, he feels that he's finally open to a return. While he recently made his return to TNA, it could be a possibility now, but whether WWE has any interest in bringing him back is another question. But there you have it, folks, 10 WWE wrestlers who had the biggest fall-offs. Be sure to leave your comments down below, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.